So I've been sharing some sobering facts with you about Jewish life, haven't I? So today I want to talk about good news. Are you ready for good news? Would you like to hear good news about Jewish life? There we go. Last week, let me start with two new people that I helped bring into the Jewish people. And if you want to understand, by the way, about the power and beauty of Judaism, you need to see it through the eyes of Jews by choice, of people who choose to become Jewish. These individuals seek conversion for lots of different reasons. Some of you might actually believe that, well, they're just doing it to get married. But the truth of the matter is that much of the time, probably half of the time, they come with no Jewish significant other. And they're in search of something. One of the women who converted was, in fact, in a relationship with a Jewish man. He's about 30 years of age. But in their case, conversion was not a requirement for considering their relationship continuing. She took the class and sharing life for a number of years with the family. She decided to convert. She saw the beauty of Jewish rituals. She loved the family-oriented celebrations. When she met with the Beit Din, the rabbinic panel of three that serves to approve conversion, she impressed the rabbis not only with her knowledge of the reasons of what holidays and rituals were about, but the messages of the values they conveyed. She and her Jewish-born significant other were beginning a Jewish journey that included celebrating Shabbat on Friday nights and implementing some observances of kashrut in their lives. Right after that conversion, I had a second one, quite different. It's a single mother with a young child, did not have a Jewish significant other. What was her motivation for converting? Growing up, her family life had not been a good one. She had no models of what it meant to live a life with values or to value relationships. The one individual who impacted her life was a relative by marriage who came in later to her life, who was a Holocaust survivor. The tattooed numbers on his arm were testimony to his story. A single parent, no Jewish support system, who celebrates Shabbat on Friday nights with just her and her son. She's becoming a regular here at Shabbat mornings and at Aliyah. And we're providing her with a sense of community. These are just two of the people that I am working with. There's another woman, a single woman in her early 30s who does not have a significant other and no other Jewish support system. She attends services in every program because she feels the power of the Jewish tradition and Jewish people. All told, I serve for about 10 to 12 people a year to be their sponsoring rabbi. Each one has their own story. Each one you just want to hold on to. Just so beautiful. They inspire me. It's interesting that most of the individuals I work with for conversion are women. With intermarriage rates more acceptable, the pressure to convert for marriage is not like it was 40 years ago. I think we know this, don't we? That has changed. And so they're converting for much different reasons. They're finding meaning and want to create Jewish families. They find meaning in the values and understand that the rituals are an important part of what it means to be Jewish. My experiences are not alone, by the way. They're reflected on a national scale. I hear and talk to rabbis all over the country who have seen in the last number of years increases of individuals who are seeking out Judaism. Why are people choosing to convert? What are they searching for? Well, sometimes Jewish journeys are not just for those who were not born Jewish. 40 years ago, when I began rabbinical school, went off to Jewish Theological Seminary, I met a man who became a friend. He was about 15 years older than the rest of us in rabbinical school. Most of us had gone straight from undergrad and graduate school into the seminary. He was 15 years older, and he was open about a story that as a young man, he found Judaism uninspiring. So he turned to Zen Buddhism in his early 20s. As he was considering becoming a Buddhist lay priest, not just a practitioner, but a Buddhist lay priest, he went to a retreat. And during that retreat, he came to realize that everything he was searching for could be found in Judaism. Some of you may know the name of this friend of mine. His name is Rabbi Alan Liu. He ended up writing 3 books about Judaism, including a memoir entitled, it's a great title, by the way, considering coming from the Buddhist tradition, One God Clapping, The Spiritual Path of a Zen Rabbi. By the way, if you are interested in finding out about the spirituality and about what Judaism has to offer in a search back to Judaism, I highly recommend that book. Rabbi Liu has since passed away, but his message, his inspiration continues. So while there are people in this community who are more observant of rituals when they grew up, I imagine some of you are like that, Rabbi Liu was different because he had rejected his Judaism. But for most of you, I don't imagine that you've done that. You might struggle with how observant or what to do. You probably, I'm sure, struggle with God. But I don't imagine that anybody here has on any given day said, you know what? I think I'm going to decide I'm not Jewish. I'm done. That's a journey that comes back. What makes Jewish identity unique? So in the ancient world, this is what I have to understand, honestly, what makes the Jewish people different. In the ancient world, every people had their own gods and culture and rituals and language. That's how people were defined throughout the world. The revolutionary message of the Bible was that the God of the Israelites was everywhere. He appears to Abraham in Ur. He appears to the Israelites in the desert, in the wilderness, outside the land of Israel. As ancient nations fell by the wayside, and their uniqueness, their rituals, their culture, their language, and all that they had, as they were invaded and taken over, as they rejected their polytheism and they took on the ways of monotheism, of Christianity or Hinduism, they lost their unique religious cultural beliefs. Even Buddhism and Hinduism, which started in India, by the way, are not constrained by one people. It's not a culture. What makes Jews and Judaism unique is that we're the only ancient people to survive intact. The only people to survive with all of those elements together. And so if people ask, are we a people or are we a religion? The answer is yes. To be part of the Jewish people, that's what it means to be connected. That's what it means in terms of survival. The biblical Ruth becomes part of the Jewish people. What does she say? You may know these words. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. Even until today, while belief in God is not required of Jews, once you accept a different religion's understanding of God, you cease to be Jewish. Likewise, one does not become Jewish just by accepting religious obligations. Jews by choice join the Jewish people. At the end of every conversion, Jews by choice are asked the question, do you cast your lot with the Jewish people? Over the last number of centuries, the Jewish connections that kept people tied together have varied and have weakened over time. Meaningful Jewish connections came in a number of ways. Being Jewish was synonymous with meaningful rituals, Passover seders, Hanukkah candlelighting, Rosh Hashanah dinners, fasting on Yom Kippur. Life cycle events like bris, bar mitzvah, and bat mitzvah, weddings, even funerals were distinctly Jewish. Whether someone considered themselves religious or Jewishly connected, this is what Jews did. This is what Jewish families did. This is what the community did in terms of living out life. And so there was this connection. In the middle of the 20th century, the Holocaust and the birth of Israel had profound impacts on people wanting to assert their Jewish identities. The Holocaust became a rallying cry for Jewish continuity. Israel served as a source of pride. A people who had returned to their home after 2,000 years, overcoming insurmountable odds. Even anti-Semitism had a way of enforcing Jewish identity. In the 50s and 60s, for those of you who might have grown up at that time, anti-Semitism could have been an everyday occurrence in the workplace, in social circles. Right? And that pushed people to having to acknowledge their Jewish identity or else to hide it completely. Whether it was professional or social circles, restrictions against Jews were reminders that they were different. All of these important identity-forming experiences are in the past. The new generation has none of those to externally push them towards being Jewish. Does that make sense? Right? Those life experiences are not part of who they are anymore. In addition, Jewish rituals and lifestyle events have ceased to be considered obligatory ways of sharing holidays and life passages. For many, being Jewish is often viewed as this individual, private relationship rather than that of community or being part of a people. For some, it's an accident of birth. Why are you Jewish? I was born Jewish, I guess. But this type of assumed or accidental Jewish identity is not passing the test of time. For the younger generation, universalism has become an important philosophy, right? A philosophy of equality. Everybody is the same. Color of skin, ethnicity, religion, they are all irrelevant. Those of you who have kids in their 20s know what I'm talking about. Right? This is the way that they have grown up in the world, that there are no divisions. And so when you seek out a partner in life, it doesn't matter whether they're Jewish. In fact, to tell somebody of the younger generation that they should marry someone Jewish feels often to them as being racist. How can you do that? We believe in equality for all. It's a reason, by the way, for a number of years that I have not spoken about marrying someone Jewish, but rather about creating a Jewish family. And the easiest way to do that is by finding someone Jewish, but not always. The universalistic philosophy of life was only possible because of the success that Jews had during the last couple of decades. The success I'm speaking about is about not the prominence of Jews in the industries or about finances. The success was attained by people who played down their Jewishness. Success I'm speaking about is a social success. What is that social success? Is that we could socialize and marry whomever we wanted to. There were no more restrictions in professional or educational life. Gone were Jewish quotas limiting the number of Jews admitted to prestigious universities and medical schools. Universalism, and here's what I want you to understand now. Universalism and American Jewish success have resulted in the increased rates of intermarriage in the Jewish community. Until the 1970s, some of you may know this data, until the 1970s, Jewish intermarriage rates were in the single digits, about 7%. According to the 2020 Pew report, the Jewish intermarriage rate since 1985 is 58%. Now, by the way, that rate sounds outrageous, but I'm going to throw in another statistic. Because if you take out those who affiliate with Orthodoxy, that rate of intermarriage goes up to 72%. 72%. Now, much of it, by the way, are Jews who are completely disconnected from their Judaism and Jewish life and Jewish peoplehood. These are people often who will answer in the surveys Jewish by birth, but not by religion. Intermarriage has become an accepted fact of American Jewish life. But there's some good news. I told you I was going to give you good news. The good news is, by the way, are the statistics of the children of these intermarriages. Okay, because the recent survey, the Pew survey, said that of the children of intermarriages, 69% of them are being raised with some Judaism in the home. Now, I want you to understand that additionally in the survey, they asked this question. And this was of children of intermarried couples who were 50 years or older. Right? So they were growing up a generation ago in this intermarried family. Of those who responded of 50 years or older, only 21% of them considered themselves Jewish. But under 50 years old, 69%. What does that mean? I'll try and translate it for you. It means in the last 20 years, the rates of children being raised Jewish in intermarried families has tripled. That intermarriage does no longer mean that they've left the Jewish people. And we need to figure out, what does that mean? The most significant data in the survey is the importance of the Jewish experience. As long as these children in these families receive Jewish experience, there's no difference than when there are two Jewish parents. Slight differences. Nothing statistically significant. And by the way, I want to tell you, that's why here at Aliyah, we have always been in the forefront of welcoming in those families. Because we've recognized that those parents are not Jewish who want to create Jewish families, that they are heroes and that they are raising Jewish families, and we need to support them. And I'm telling you that our approach has worked. The families that I know here in which one of the parents is not Jewish, they are the most dedicated of Jewish families, and their children all identify as being Jewish. Some of them are here today. They are the ones who are setting the trend because they believe in what we are doing. Several years ago, I wrote a letter to the congregation. Some of you may remember it or maybe not, in which I said, I'm tired of not being able to talk to your children who are marrying someone who's not Jewish. I'm tired of not knowing about it. I'm tired of not being able to sit and talk about the most important part of their lives and to be able to help guide them in some life decisions that they might be making. It pained me so often to not be part of that process. Now, I can't officiate at those ceremonies, but there are ways that we can acknowledge them. And that's what we've been working on here. As a result, just in the last year, by the way, I've had half a dozen meetings with young adult congregants, some of your children, who are about to marry someone not Jewish and what that means in their lives. Isn't that an important discussion to have with them? To be able to help them figure out what the future is going to bring. In some cases, by the way, I'm just able to answer questions and help them along this journey. Other times, by the way, I've helped a friend to create a ceremony that is authentic and reflects where they are in this Jewish life and journey that they're just beginning. I've even created a new ritual that takes place weeks before the wedding that celebrates the love. They sign a document together. I was tired of the kids that I had celebrated bar and bat mitzvah with and shared life with, who want to create Jewish homes, and me saying, sorry. The answer is just no. Or you have to convert right now. That's your only option. As a past president of the Rabbinical Assembly, my rabbinical organization forbids me from officiating. But we're working on how do we bring in these families. I don't know what the future is going to bring. And I'm not talking just about anybody. I'm not about saving the Jewish world, by the way. For me, it's about being part of the lives of our families who are committed to creating Jewish families. And that's where I'm trying to push boundaries to begin to think creatively. So where is this sermon going? Right? I've talked about conversion, universalism, and intermarriage. And you're wondering, Rabbi Vogel's gone off the tracks here. What's he talking about? Well, what do all three of these things have in common? the changes that have occurred in Jewish life over the last 30 years are directly related to the meaning of what it means to find meaning in Jewish life. Abraham Joshua Heschel said this. I want you to hear these words. Abraham Joshua Heschel, who passed away in the early 70s. So he was talking about this from the 60s even. The Jewish people are a messenger who have forgotten their message. The Jewish people are a messenger who have forgotten their message. Many Jews no longer share these holidays and celebrations or tell the stories. In Heschel's words, quote, people of our time are losing the power of celebration. Instead of celebrating, we seek to be amused or entertained. Celebration is an active state, an act of expressing reverence or appreciation. To be entertained is a passive state. Even when many Jewish families observe rituals today, they do it in a pro forma way. You know that. They walk through it. So what are our Jewish celebrations about? What are the values to convey? What inspiration do they offer? And what's leading many people, non-Jews in particular, to find the Jewish path? So let me tell you. On Passover, we remind ourselves of the importance of freedom, and we vow to fight against continued enslavement of all people. On Purim, we remind ourselves of the dangers of not just anti-Semitism, but any hatred towards people who are considered the other. On Sukkot, we build a sukkah to live in nature, to remind ourselves that we must be the best stewards of our environment, of our planet. On Shabbat, we live in sacred time, reminding ourselves the way to reconnect to life is to disconnect to those things that serve as a distraction. Heschel called Shabbat a palace in time. Hanukkah could be the most Jewish American of all the holidays, reminder of how challenging it is to hold to our observances and values as a minority. What are our values? What are people searching for? Our values of tzedakah, respecting parents and elders, protecting the stranger and other vulnerable people, importance of family. Those are just to name a few that reflect the Jewish message and what it's about. That's why people are finding their way to Judaism. That's why even intermarried families are interested. It's not just for the sake of calling themselves Jewish, it's for the sake of creating something beautiful for themselves. They just have a different journey. They have discovered the message that Heschel warns has been lost. How many of us need to rediscover that message? To hold that message. Rabbi Schulweis of blessed memory used to say that all Jews need to be Jews by choice, actively choosing and committed to the Jewish journey. I want you all to become Jews by choice. May this be a year of finding that message for ourselves, welcoming others who wish to share the Jewish identity. And for that, let us all say, Amen.